We will continue to talk about how to integrate home language into your daily activities as you're using the pull strategies to support oral language development in English. But once we've begun to build a relationship with the family, one of the next concrete steps we can take when supporting dual language learners begins with creating a warm and meaningful environment. This is the second component of pull. So, when we think about strategic planning for early language experiences, setting up the environment is a key strategy. It requires intentional planning, especially when it comes to supporting dual language learners in home language and in English. All children need to see themselves in their environment. A welcoming and positive environment in the classroom is key to fostering their development. When children experience a welcoming and positive environment, they're more likely to develop confidence and positive self esteem. They can more effectively communicate their feelings and have space and time to do that. They concentrate and focus deeply in areas that they're engaged in and they're learning. And they have success in group situations and individual learning opportunities. Welcoming and positive environments send a message to children and their families that they're valued and respected. An important first step toward creating an environment that supports learning and development is to get to know children's families and backgrounds and build partnerships with families. This is how we connect the family language and interest information to appropriately setting up the environment. Setting the stage. The classroom environment sets the stage for active and engaged learning. It's warm, welcoming, and inclusive of all students. And it's safe and organized and has clear pathways for movement. What does this look like? It's active. Active learning experiences are spaces where children can explore, reflect, and interact. Varied. They're varied and they provide many different ways for children to learn. So, whether that's in small groups, hands on activities in areas that are both large and small, you have quiet areas, and you're considering your indoor and outdoor environments as well. It's balanced. It's balanced between teacher led and child led activities. It's integrated with materials that are rich and based on themes and concepts that have both been cultivated in the classroom and brought in from home. It's experiential with lots of opportunities to actively explore materials and engage in activities that promote rich language interactions. A rich oral language classroom helps children find the ability to problem solve, to plan, to think, and imagine. It really fosters language development and it allows teachers and providers to really listen and observe as children are actively involved and helps them to build and expand language skills at appropriate times. It provides children with the time to have interactions as individuals, in small groups, and in large groups. The classroom environment is engaging and interactive. Adults and children are learning from each other. Providers have set up an environment that engages interests and follows the child's lead. And adults provide opportunities to facilitate conversations around topics of interest. When considering your floor plan design, think about the areas in your room, carving out spaces, both large areas for the whole group to come together and smaller areas where children can engage in as individuals and in small groups. Think about interest areas and the types of activities that you want children to be involved in. You may have a library corner that's there year round where you have lots of books and interesting props and ways for children to engage in reading. But other interest areas may change over time. So you may have different activities based on a theme where you might pull out blocks for a construction unit or use those blocks for a different activity and a different theme later on. You might consider using your space in different ways. So you might use your indoor and outdoor environment for themes and related activities. And you would consider also that your quiet area would be away from a noisier area, and that you have spaces for children to go to be by themselves, to have some quiet time where they're away from other children. As you plan your environment, consider the layout of the room. Make sure there's enough space around you. Consider that your interest areas are visible and accessible, and the children's work is displayed and visible. Setting up the environment with your dual language learners in mind will help them access information. It will help you to reference it often, especially when you don't speak the language of the child. It shows the value you place on culture and diversity where all children have a sense of belonging. Designing a learning environment that works best for your children is an ongoing process. Some spaces and interest areas can be introduced at the beginning of the year, while others would be more relevant later. The areas that are more permanent will have materials that might change frequently by adding tasks or components that shift in level of complexity. Providers can also add specific books, pictures, activities, and materials to centers that will reinforce and extend the weekly theme and topics. By knowing the language and learning needs and strengths of the DLL children in your care, as well as the specific instructional goals planned for each child, staff can make adjustments as necessary. The learning environment will be an enriching experience for all children from the moment they walk through the door. Encourage students to bring in items from home that represent their cultural heritage. Many children who aren't bilingual may also have multicultural backgrounds. Create opportunities for students to taste different foods, read multicultural books, and share their stories and backgrounds with their peers. Sharing home cultures not only creates an environment of acceptance, but also teaches children about other cultures and the world. It's also an important part of supporting home language. Here are some ways that environmental supports help DLLs use and practice their home language and English. Environmental supports are visually engaging and interactive. Walls and areas in the room have rich and accessible information, places for children to actively learn and see their language represented in various ways. Environmental supports have areas throughout the room where children can move, play, discover, and use language as they work individually, in parallel, with peers and adults. These areas are set up so that children can freely explore, they can create, pretend, and have conversations, and where the adults can support those conversations by asking questions, expanding thinking, and helping select word choice. Environmental supports provide visual information. There will be labeling using words and pictures so that children know where to find things and how to put them away, for example. This will support children's language skills and foster self-exploration and independency. Labeling classroom objects will allow dual language learners to better understand their immediate surroundings and to visually connect written language with the objects they represent. These labels will also assist you when explaining or giving directions. Start with everyday items such as door, or in Spanish, puerta, book, or libro, silla, or chair. Be sure to include languages spoken by your students. Teachers can also display additional print based on student needs and interests. For example, displays of child-generated stories in English and the home language, or restaurant menus in multiple languages in the dramatic play area. Teachers can display schedules, signs, and directions with both words and pictures or symbols, so young dual language learners can start to connect the printed word with the action in the home language and understand that it is a different word in English. Environmental supports value and really support home language. As you meet with families and learn about languages represented, it's so important to display information in the dominant languages represented. You can do this in a variety of ways through charts like cognates, word walls, schedules, interest areas, and everyday items like the door, sink, window, table. Teachers can learn words ahead of time in the children's languages and make a list of cognates. Cognates are words that sound the same and have the same meaning in two languages. For example, in Spanish, we say teléfono, or in English, telephone. Elefante, elephant. Cognates are especially prevalent in Spanish and English, and they can be important when helping children transfer vocabulary knowledge from one language to English. In many languages, teachers and children can create cognates and benefit from seeing patterns and connecting the sounds and meanings of words across multiple languages. Teachers can place keywords and photos in a pocket chart so students can come up at any time during the day, pull them out, and work with them interactively. I would like to invite you next to watch a couple of demonstration videos with me, one of a toddler learning environment and the other of a preschool environment.